story by telling you that I was an ordinary child growing up in a normal family. I'm no longer sure that ordinary or normal exist. I grew up always feeling different, never quite fitting in. I was a shy, quiet, geeky, creative maths kid. I tended to wear black or blue, trying to hide, trying not to be noticed. I had significant health problems with severe asthma and allergies. As a teenager, it turned out that I was allergic to the floor polish at the Baptist church where I grew up. So the deeply theological reason of allergies is how I first joined the Anglican church. God works in mysterious ways. But I count myself lucky because I had physical health labels. It didn't really shift others' expectations of what was possible for me. As an adult, I found a spiritual director helping me to encounter God within the reality of my life. One retreat I did a weaving. I picked different colours of yarn to weave my story. Colours for God, for me, and I was really pleased with the neat front. But as I prayed with it, it was the back, the messy ends, the frayed threads, the knots. And I felt God's call to go deeper, to encounter the divine in the reality of the stuff I wanted to hide. In 2011, I was ordained in Winchester Cathedral. 2.5 years into my curacy, I was signed off work with depression and anxiety. And I decided to be open on social media about what was happening. What we didn't know then is that there are a small percentage of people that have an atypical reaction to antidepressant medication. I am one of that small percentage. This atypical reaction is mania, but I don't even do atypical normally. My body went to sleep, but my brain went racing. For me, in mania, the filters go. I become a more intense version of me. All my quirks that I usually try and keep hidden are all out there for everyone to see, for me to finally face up to. And so I went Googling. I'm sure I'm not the only one. At 2 a.m. one cold January morning in 2017, I stumbled across ADHD and what ADHD looks like in bright girls. There were tears rolling down my face. This was me. This was who I had always been, and I didn't even know this was a thing. This all played out around my 42nd birthday, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And these were indeed my answers to life, in the messy ends, the knots, and the frayed bits. The next day I woke up, and for the first time ever, I smiled at myself in the mirror. I wanted to get to know the person looking back. The first time ever of accepting that this is who I am. Even just the possibility had unlocked a door for me. I decided to write down what was going on. My sense of self, of understanding, was shifting so quickly. One of the gifts of ADHD is hyperfocus. Hyperfocus within mania is something very special. I wrote for 14 hours straight through the night, 30,000 words, a sense of deep peace. I called it Right Night. ADHD and me. At that moment, the label seemed almost irrelevant. It was the insight, the understanding, the compassion. For the first time ever, I felt an inkling of really knowing who I am, a sense of belonging in my mind and my body. The next night, I took this into prayer and meditation. I had such a deep sense of encounter with the divine, of peace and light. Accepting the connections, the body, the person that I am, connected within all creation. Being present, here, now. Deep joy, deep peace, radiant light. Present to God's presence. I called this Light Night. The next day I got up and I went to our curate's training session. Perhaps not my best decision. By the end of the day in the diocesan office, I had shouted at one bishop and another bishop drove me home. I asked him to help me to get help. This is Winchester Diocese. Later that night, my bishop and my husband took me to hospital. On the way, I asked them if they could help me find somewhere to be dark, quiet and cool to help me be as calm as possible. But this is an A&E waiting room, bright, noisy and warm. By this time, I was fortunate to be ill enough to get help. Mania and psychosis. I was sectioned and admitted to a secure psychiatric hospital. I continued to be open on social media, asking people to pray their sparkliest, pinkest prayers as I was on my NHS-sponsored retreat. The doctors trying out various medications and dosages, trying to find the right one for me. A few weeks later, I was diagnosed with bipolar, ADHD and sensory processing disorder and strong autistic traits and on a waiting list for autism assessment. 1 week, one person, 4 new disorder labels. After such an enlightening experience of discovering who I am, I'm now told this is all disorders. And I find myself living within different paradigms, separate approaches to life and hope, and each offering different paths forward. In the medical paradigm, the conversation is around chemical imbalances, the need for medications to fix the expectation that somehow normal is possible. And if not normal, at least numbing, suppressing, reducing the extremes, a conversation of risk and control. And then there's the psychological paradigm, the possibilities of understanding, of strengths and challenges, of learning different strategies, of seeing the gifts within these things. And there's the spiritual paradigm, Rachel, fearfully and wonderfully made, fully known and loved by God as I am, with all these things, the call to each of us into God's glorious light to be transformed, becoming more Christ-like. Labels open up access to support, noise-cancelling headphones, weighted blankets, medication. They also give me deeper confidence to continue with things I'd already found, homemade clothes with no labels, heavy boots so I know where my feet are, and crochet to help me concentrate on spoken words. Understanding better how I work, my body no longer has to stop breathing with asthma before I will recognise sensory overwhelm and anxiety. People's reactions to labels are fascinating, stigma and stereotypes alive and well. Autism has suddenly become trendy. Many telling me everyone is on the spectrum and I don't look like I have any traits. I don't know how these both work. ADHD, many think, is made up. Just grow up and pull yourself together. ADHD medication, surely that is just smart drugs or cheating. Depression and anxiety are more familiar to people. Everyone seems to have their favourite quick fix that I should try that would solve everything. And then there's bipolar. No one associates with bipolar. That one is other. Those same people who see everyone on a spectrum with autism, bipolar is the other side of an invisible line. Psychiatric hospital and psychosis are still very much taboo. And if you start a conversation about bipolar medications, then clearly you should be having them, and at a strong dose, to suppress any indication of difference, even if it suppresses gifts. Bipolar is seen almost exclusively through the lens of risk and other. And Christians often accidentally add a deeper level of challenge with their questions. I had the same sorries as you, Anne. Also, assumptions that you can't be a priest with any of these labels, let alone all of them. People praying for demons to be released, people praying for healing, gospel telling me that in eternal life there will be me without all of these labels. And that was just the clergy talking. Well-meaning people completely silencing and discounting me, unwilling to recognise God's presence within diversity. Fortunately, there were a few close to me, willing and able to recognise God at work in all that was happening, discerning with me the peace and light within it, and helping me to deepen this newfound connection with who I have always been, the understanding of neurodiversity, of the breadth of experience of being human, and that God works in the midst of our real humanity. I am grateful for my diocese, for my bishops and archdeacon, for HR, who were willing and able to recognise that my life story, my CV, the same one they used to select me for ordination, is the one that was also used to diagnose all these conditions. Although the labels were new, they were willing to be open to see the gifts within this, as well as to work more knowledgeably with the challenges. And the same bishop that took me to A&E last year licensed me as parish priest. And we did laugh together that my curacy had definitely delivered on being formational. He encouraged me to continue to find ways to live well with my gifts and challenges in this place at this time. And so I'm learning to be gentle on myself and to remember that despite all the labels, there is just one of me. And I am called to encounter God's presence within this one life with all its messy, frayed threads. Thank you.